Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be going over photosynthesis in more details. In the previous video I gave you a quick and brief overview of this process. Today we're going to be talking about the two stages of photosynthesis in a lot more details. Now just as a quick recap, here we have the overall equation of photosynthesis. The main reactants, as always, are going to be carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. And the main products are sugar in the form of glucose and oxygen, which gets released into the atmosphere. You will notice that I have attached a graphic organizer that will go along today's video. As I go through the two stages of photosynthesis, I would like you to please fill in the graphic organizer using the information that I will explain on here. So, like we mentioned, photosynthesis happens in two stages. Light-dependent reactions happen first, and this is followed by the light-independent reactions, which are sometimes known as the Calvin cycle. Let us focus on the light-dependent reactions first. Now, just from the name, you can guess that these reactions or this stage requires light to happen. And the main purpose of this stage is to basically capture energy from sunlight. This means that sunlight will be absorbed and then stored in energy storing molecules. The location of the light-dependent reactions is the thylakoids, and the thylakoids are these green disc-shaped structures that you see here inside the chloroplast. So the thylakoids contain pigments. Specifically, they contain large amounts of chlorophyll, and that's why they are green. Chlorophyll, remember, is a pigment that absorbs light and specifically reflects green light. So light is absorbed by the thylakoids, and it's going to be stored inside an energy molecule. Now, this energy molecule is actually ADP, and if you remember, ADP is a partially charged energy molecule, okay? We also have another reactant here, which is NADP. Now, this is not a molecule that I've mentioned before. I'm not going to go into too much details about what NADP is, but what you need to know is that it is an electron carrying molecule. This means that once sunlight is present, electrons from solar energy, or basically electrons are going to be charged up or excited, in other words, and NADP is going to carry these electrons to other parts of the chloroplast that might need this energy. Whenever I use the word electron, you think of energy. Electrons are basically energy units, okay? So the last reactant for for stage one is going to be water, which of course is something that all plants need to stay alive. By the end of the stage one light-dependent reactions, oxygen is going to be released into the atmosphere. Oxygen is going to be made as a byproduct and released. And the ADP, which is a partially charged energy particle, becomes fully energized and becomes an ATP molecule. So essentially the sunlight or the solar energy gets converted into ATP, or basically is used to fully charge or energize the ADP molecule, so it becomes a fully charged ATP molecule. In addition, since we have solar energy, we now have excited electrons, and these electrons are going to be carried by NADP, which becomes known as NADPH. NADPH, the word H here, indicates that it's carrying electrons. So here it's not carrying any electrons, okay, not yet, but then when it actually carries electrons, we don't refer to it as NADP, we refer to it as NADPH, which means that it is fully energized and ready to be moving these electrons around to another part of the chloroplast. Okay, so this takes us to the next stage, which is the light-independent reactions. Now, right away, we can figure out that there is no light involved during the light-independent reactions, okay? So light-independent reactions can happen without the presence of light. So the purpose of stage two is to use the energy that was created in the light-dependent reactions in order to make glucose, the final product of the process of photosynthesis. The location of stage 2, or the light-independent reactions, is the stroma, which is a clear, jelly-like liquid that fills the chloroplast. The main reactants of this process are carbon dioxide, ATP, and NADPH. Now, I want you to pay attention. Where do you think, or where did these two molecules come from? Where did the ATP and the NADPH molecule come from? They came from the previous stage, the light-dependent reactions, because those were the products of this stage, right? At the end of stage 1, at the end of light-dependent reactions, ATP and NADPH were made. Well, they then go to the second stage, and they're being used as energy sources to power up stage 2, since there is no solar energy around to do so. Carbon dioxide comes from the atmosphere. This is the type of gas that plants take in. Now, at the end of the light-independent reactions, a glucose molecule is made. And specifically, like the main ingredient, or the direct, I would say, ingredient for making glucose is the carbon dioxide that, like I said, gets absorbed by the atmosphere. And the energy that was required to create the sugar molecule came from the ATP and the NADPH, which carried electrons, aka energy storing units. So here's a quick visual to kind of summarize everything I talked about. We have two stages of photosynthesis: light-dependent reactions, stage 1, light-independent reactions, stage 2. Light-dependent reactions require light, water, these are the reactants of this step, and they produce oxygen. At the end of the stage, we have oxygen released. It also makes ATP and NADPH, which are energy-carrying molecules. These two energy-carrying molecules are going to go into the light-independent reactions so that they are used to power the stage up. The light-independent reactions also takes in carbon dioxide, which is going to be used to create a glucose molecule.